Orbund knows student information systems, but doesn't know football. We help you tackle the admin processes and gaps you may already have. Orbund knows compliance, but doesn't know soccer. We help you kick off compliance reports in 3 clicks, not 3 months.
Hi, Coach Paul here again. For those of you that are first timers, I'm Paul Rutledge with Team Orbund. I want to thank you for taking the time and interest to watch this video today. Today's Coach's Corner topic is emergency management. You'll find this in our file cabinet under the letter E, because isn't it obvious, emergency management? We also file this under the letter C for compliance because an emergency management plan is embedded in a lot of compliance-related requirements. As an example, to obtain Title IV approval for financial aid, the Clery Act requires schools that are Title IV participating have an emergency management plan. So those tools and support activities from within an SIS is an important consideration. If you watched past Coach's Corner videos, we discussed this slide about our hub playing field to capture all the metrics. And when it comes to emergency management, the hub is where all the data resides to deal with an emergency, because communication with all students, faculty, and staff is normally done from the system. The challenge to a good emergency management situation is, since the most important part of an emergency is communication, doing it from the desk may not be all that practical. So let's talk about the Orbund game plan to support the challenges of emergency management. The first step is having a written plan. It needs to reflect real world threats. You can keep this in our repository under the school documents and share it with all through the student portal and staff access. Human nature in emergency is personal safety first, but school leaders need to initiate the first stage, which is communication to all potentially affected. The Orbund SIS has the ability to mass communicate from the browser. Most schools do this from a desktop or laptop on top of their desk, which in extremes is a potential liability. If you can recall your primary school days, harder for some of us than others, but we won't go there. You may recall the joy of a fire drill, loving the time we got as an unplanned break from the monotony of the daily lecture. During those events, teachers and staff were all practicing their roles of counting their students and reporting to the administration that everyone was accounted for and no one was stuck in the building. Even in our schools, those duties need to be institutionalized in theory and in practice. The Orbund game plan can give you this support. As post-secondary education, we face more complex challenges, like adult students arriving and departing at different times and days. Our current times must also reflect planning for more challenging situations. In the news, school shootings are becoming a current reality. So a good game plan must reflect this, and all Title IV schools must ponder this because of the reality of the Virginia Tech shooting and references in the Clery Act, which have an impact for all Title IV schools. In the worst scenarios, fire, explosion, God forbid a deranged individual, a plan can't be dependent upon communicating from your desk. Our game plan has the ability to get out quick, communicate with all, and provide support EMS services in evacuating any of your students and staff. And that's what a good game plan needs to do. Normally at this time, we run some game film and review plays using the Orbund SIS. But today we are meeting with a special teams consultant on this topic. Let me introduce Dave Kanaski, President of Financial Aid Experts.
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
Dave, we've known each other for a period of time. And my
more years than we probably should tell anyone.
Well, let's not admit it in person, but my first misconception was you help schools with financial aid servicing. Can you help give a quick overview of what FA Experts does?
Well, we're not a servicer. We don't do your paperwork. We're a management consulting team. So we'll come in and we'll help you with all aspects of Title IV compliance, which, like with new schools, they don't realize just how much Title IV regulation gets into things that have nothing to do with giving people financial aid money. and have more to do with how you run your school, and everything from today's topic, which is emergency management, to admissions, placement, all kinds of things that are regulated under student aid.
So what we're talking about today, emergency management communication, is an important topic. Tell me, my system, the Orbund SIS, has the ability to communicate with students, has the ability to text message with students. Why is this not a great solution when it comes to a management or an emergency management issue?
Well, it comes down to the concept of, are you checking a regulatory box, or are you really doing something that would be useful in an emergency? If you think about it, if there was a real emergency, from a weather emergency, a tornado warning, heaven forbid, a deranged individual or something like that comes on your campus, does anyone have the time to go log into Orbund on their system and send a text message to everyone? And then if you did, you're kind of locked at your desk waiting for replies, or hiding under it, hopefully. And it's there, but it's not really going to help you manage the emergency. So what we did is, us working together with Orbund, we've developed this system really to help you be mobile during an emergency and have two-way communication actively between everyone on your campus and your emergency management team. So part of this is, it's just a solution really for communication. You still got to have an emergency management plan. You still got to have an emergency management team. But this is the way that you can actively communicate and manage a crisis mobily from your phone.
So why don't you walk us through the system?
Sure. So the image on the left is actually my personal phone, and you see there's an Orbund 911 icon for the Orbund 911 app. So when you click that, it clicks you to the sign-on screen, and like many things, you can click remember me the first time you use it, and then your logon is relatively 2 clicks at that point. You've clicked Orbund 911 icon, and you click login, and you're in. Now,
so in the case of a serious emergency, the first thing your people can do is grab their phones and get out.
Right. And you're only talking about, the only people who would have the app and have access to the app are your emergency management team, not every student or every faculty member. So, your team might be, depending on the size of your school, it might be a dozen people, it might be, 4 or 5. But those are the people who would have the ability to send out the initial broadcast message. So once you click log on, if you take us to the next screen, now I've switched for ease of seeing it in this to actually screenshots from my laptop, but it is the same thing on your phone. It's just a little bit harder to see for a presentation like this. So there are 2 places immediately in red there. You see with the red arrows pointing to them where you can send a text alert. This is also your main screen if you're on for a non-emergency, if you're just doing maintenance, if you're updating your team members, this is where you would do it. But the most important functionality, of course, is to send a text alert. So if you click on that, Paul, there you go. It takes us to the send alert page. Now, there's a lot of options here, but we've automatically default to what you would need in an emergency, which is a broadcast alert, means it goes to everyone, and it's set for all recipients. Now, you can change those things if you're doing it, if your situation warrants, or if you just want to send communication in some other way to a smaller group that isn't necessarily emergency. We also have the safety check-in request up at the top right. And that's for after everything is over. If you click that, you'll send a new message out that asks everyone to check in safe. And there's a whole functionality in the system that keeps a record of who's checked in and who hasn't, so that you can determine if anybody's missing or anybody is not texting back that they're safe.
And
Okay.
an important,
You also
point
have the
on this,
ability, there's certain,
and
go
an,
ahead, Paul.
an important point on this is that your student database, your staff, your administrators, your faculty are all synchronized every night from within the Orbund system. So as you add new students, you don't have to worry about adding them to the emergency management system.
That's correct. That's the beauty of the system. There's very little maintenance. The only time you really need to do any maintenance is if you get a new member of your emergency management team. So, and then there's a number of preset messages that you can choose from. So in this case, now each school can set up preset messages that are for things that are more likely to happen at their occurrence. There are some that come with the system, but you can overwrite them. You can put your own in. Again, you can't account for every situation with a preset message. So I picked the preset that just is about a severe weather warning, and I keyed it in over on it automatically. When I click it, it dumps into the compose message side at the lower left, and I changed it to specific. So I changed it from a severe weather warning to a tornado warning. Okay, I can do that in a matter of a couple clicks, right? I've clicked on which one I want. I can type in the word tornado and I'm ready to go. Okay. Also, because you're doing this on your phone or on your computer, but if you're doing it on your phone or your iPad or something like that, you can also use voice to text and compose a message voice to text. Just make sure it actually says what you wanted it to say, because you know how voice text is. It'll then create the preview for you. Demo alert. This is because we've set this up as Demo University. So, but there's the short version of the school name. So that it'll say in there your school name or whatever your abbreviation for your school name is, so everybody knows who it's coming from. And there's the message. So if we hit send alert, it's out. And I've been talking a lot, but Paul, you know, you've seen us demo this 100 times. You know, we're talking what, 10 seconds?
Instantaneously.
You know, and the message itself, yeah, comes within 2-3 seconds every time. So this is actually a screenshot from my phone of what came through. There it is. And I had added before I sent it, not to panic any of the people in my company, that this is only a test. Okay. So the neat thing is now, if this is an actual emergency, every student at your school, every faculty member, every administrator, even if you're in a shared building, if you want to share this with some of your neighbor companies, you know, everyone has gotten it almost instantly. So it took us maybe 10 seconds to send it and 2 more or 3 more seconds for them to all get it. Okay, so that's the beauty of one-way communication. But then what happens? Well, Paul was one of the people who got it, so he quickly replied to say that he's heading into a lab classroom. Okay, perhaps that was a more secure space or whatever. But you notice I got a reply. It says who it's from and what his phone number is. And this reply only comes back to the members of the emergency management team. So this doesn't become a ridiculous exercise where 300 people are all communicating with each other. But the emergency management team can get information from anyone. So if one of the students replies, it comes to the emergency management team. And hopefully by that point, the emergency management team has either gathered together or at least is communicating. And if any of the emergency management team wants to communicate with each other, they can do the same thing. You're now off of Orbund 911 and you're actually on your regular text message, and you send a text message and it just goes to the emergency management team. So the team can be walking around communicating with each other.
Or communicating with emergency services.
And at least one of you hopefully is communicating to emergency services of some kind, right? And it keeps it under control from that standpoint. But the beauty of that two-way communication is, you know, if there is, heaven forbid, an intruder on campus or something like that, and someone says, well, you know, he's in the Smith building. Okay, great. Or he's on the 3rd floor. We can immediately communicate that to the emergency responders, and they know what to do and they know where to go, you know. So it's a tool. It's not a solution to your problem, but at least it helps you manage it actively, not just wait and see what happens. Okay, so part of what you get is, as I mentioned, we're a consulting firm. So we wanted to give you some added ability to put together an emergency management plan. So as part of what you get when you sign up for Orbund 911 is this, it's a brief guide. It's not a fill in the blanks manual of what your emergency management plan is. It's more of a management help to you to help you develop your own plan and things to think about and ways to plan and those kind of things. And we provide this for free to anyone who signs up for Orbund 911 because we're the communication piece, but you still got to have a plan. You still got to know who your go-to people are in an emergency. You got to plan for things like, well, what if it happens on a Saturday? Who's here on a Saturday? Those kind of things. So it's a guide. It's not, it's not going to put it together for you. It's not going to do your thinking for you or put together your team for you, but it will help you along that journey to building a plan. And of course, if you feel overwhelmed by it, I know a consulting firm called Financial Aid Experts, and we've got a lot of experience putting these plans together with people. And it isn't, we'll put it together for you. It means we'll sit down in a room with you and we'll go through it with your team and we'll talk it through and we'll help you put the plan together.
And Dave, I've seen you work with a number of schools. You've worked with them through the process of submitting their Title IV plan, and having an emergency management plan is an important aspect of that I've seen you work with those schools, and having a functional plan and a functional plan for all situations is something that I think this add-on service is something where, as a partnership, you and Orbund, we do some great things for clients. So thanks for your time, Dave.
I think so. And well, one more thing I just want to add, even if you're not a Title IV school, I mean, recent events got to indicate to you, you really don't want to be caught flat-footed in an emergency. Everybody thinks it'll never happen here, and I live in Buffalo, New York. Let me tell you, we never thought anything like what happened would happen in our little community. So, it's worth it to spend a little time in planning and hope that nothing ever happens and you never need that plan, rather than to need it and not have it.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul.
So we showed you our game plan. We walked through an area our SIS and a partner can support a robust emergency management solution. As leadership, I ask you to reflect and ask your team, what is your plan and how is it practiced? When was it written? Last practiced? Updated? Is it a Clery Act Title IV compliant, reflecting real-world challenges? How serious is it? Is it a compliance checkmark or a living team approach? As we see in current events, the news of bad situations and the legal impact of bad practices, as leaders, we must ask and plan for the worst to limit exposure. Orbund SIS can be a checkmark solution, or we have support tools and experience we can bring to bear to help you step up your game. Thank you for the time today to watch this video. If you'd like to book a meeting with one of our coaches, contact us or click the Meet with the Coach button in the email or at the bottom of the web page. Thanks and have a great day.